Hey and welcome to another trip report. This time on this train over here. Today I'll be traveling to Kristiansand. This train is bound for Oslo though. Right now I'm in Stavanger, so it's on the Stavanger-Oslo line. I already made a video on this line and you can find different kinds of day trains on this route. And I haven't covered these trains yet. So that I will do in this video. I'll show you the railway station of Stavanger, the trains and some views from the train, and also give you some more background information. For now I hope you'll like this video. If you do so, give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, then hit the subscribe button. But for now, let's roll the intro. Before we dive into this, a quick comparison on the environmental impact if you're traveling by train, car and plane on the route Stavanger-Oslo. Of course, trains won't clean the air. However, you can travel 694 times by train to have the same carbon footprint as traveling one time by plane. At the end of the video I will give you some more background on these data. But for now we'll dive into the topic of this video. A day earlier I arrived in Stavanger by bus from Bergen. And of course I do have a trip report on that as well. You can find it on this channel. This is a part of a rather hectic and crazy trip where I visited a lot of Norway in a short time. But if you're here and you have some time, I really recommend you to try to visit the Preikestolen, especially in the summertime. Stavanger is a very nice town, but I didn't have that much time to discover. Actually, I like to give you some more background about this entire Norway trip. Because this trip is a part of a greater journey where I traveled by train from the Netherlands to Kiel in northern Germany, from where on I took an overnight ferry to Gothenburg in Sweden and continued my way by train to Oslo. I took Norway's fastest train, but also the train that goes on the highest altitude in all of Northern Europe. I traveled by bus and boat towards Vlam, from where on I took the famous Sørlandsbane. This is the steepest railway in the world that is not using a cogwheel. And of course I also travel with more local trains. This all to show you what it's like to travel on a more sustainable way of transportation and to lower your carbon footprint while traveling. I even took a bus that went on some ferries. And for the last train ride I took a train that called at Norway's most southern railway station. From the town of Kristiansand in the south of Norway I took a ferry back homebound towards the Netherlands. And of course I made trip reports on all of this. Let's take a closer look at the Norwegian railway map and let's zoom in for our line today. From Stavanger to Oslo, passing by Norway's most southern railway station. This train is also calling at Kristiansand, from where on you find international ferries to Denmark and also towards the Netherlands. From Stavanger you also find ferries to Denmark, by the way. From this part of Norway I think the ferries from Kristiansand are most interesting to me. However, from many other parts I think I prefer the ferries that do depart from Sweden to Germany, because there you also find good ferry connections that are also well connected on trains. Anyway, about this map here. As you can see, Stavanger is a terminal railway station. You can only take trains that will go towards Oslo. In Drammen you can change if you want to go to Bergen, but the bus is the only most obvious other way. I also arrived here by bus and these buses are actually quite comfortable. The bus station is situated next to the railway station and parts of it are also at the front. The part right next to the railway station is for both city and very local buses, but also more long distance buses, and at the front you will only find city buses. Between the bus station and the railway station there's a taxi stand, and near some bus stops there are vending machines where you can buy tickets for the local buses, so the city and the regional buses. If you take a long distance bus you need to buy a ticket in advance, because there cannot be sold more tickets as there are seats available. From Stavanger you also find ferries to Denmark, and that ferry actually continues its way to Bergen, or from Bergen via Stavanger to Denmark. If you take those ferries, please keep in mind that the ferry terminal is about a 45-minute ride by bus from the city center, so from the railway station. The railway station is really close to the city center of Stavanger. However, the buses to the ferry terminal run very frequent, at least at the moment of recording, and also go more or less all day round, so 24/7. Although the services at night are way less than at daytime. The railway station of Stavanger is not that big, to be honest. This is the main concourse, and well, that's basically it. There are some screens with information about departing trains and arriving trains, toilets, luggage lockers, and some places where you can wait. Of course, there's also a vending machine for train tickets. I also noticed a ticket counter, but it was closed when I was here on a late Saturday evening. Near lots of places where you can have a sit, there are power plugs as well, and there's a small convenience store within the main railway station hall. That's basically it. Directions have been mentioned in Norwegian and English. In general, this is very good in Norway, and most announcements are both in Norwegian and English as well. The level of English in Norway is in general very, very good. Even better than in the Netherlands where I'm from, at least this is how I feel it. However, they have another funny accent, and not the funny accent that I do have. By the way, a little side note about this. In general, the only people who do comment on my accent are Dutch people. They give these comments like, "Oh, look who pretending to know how to speak English." Well, let me tell you one thing, I definitely need to improve something, but I think my English overall is quite understandable, and especially for Dutch people it's even better to understand because they have the same accent. And no, I'm not trying to hide my accent, because that would sound strange if I would try to put on a British or an American accent. By the way, I can't even do that. Okay, back to this video. Between the railway station and the bus station there's a parking spot for bikes. And also within the bus station you find a convenience store. This is actually leading right straight to the front of the railway station or bus station. I don't know how you want to mention this. I think the best way for Stavanger station is calling this an intermodal transport hub. Let's go back to Sunday morning when I left from here. And it was really quiet. I took the first train, however in the summertime and also on weekdays you find earlier trains on this route. The sleeper train to Oslo is not running daily from what I noticed, but well, it's almost every day, and maybe this is also something that is seasonably. There are 4 tracks over here, and this here at the far end is my train for today. At the track there are clear departure screens that will also host the train composition, so you know what carriage of the train will be where at the platform. This will refer to numbers, for example G you can see here on the left, and then you know what carriage will be more or less where at the platform. Before I show you something more of the train, let's have another quick look on the railway map of Norway. As you can see, the section between Stavanger and Kristiansand is marked as scenic. The section Kristiansand-Oslo is not really scenic according to this map, and I can tell you it is way less scenic than the first section between Stavanger and Kristiansand. Personally, I don't want to travel with a sleeper train here, because then you miss a lot of freaking awesome scenery. Back to my train for today. Today I'll be traveling on board of a Norwegian Railway Class 73 train operated by Go Ahead Nordic. Since a couple of years, the Norwegian government made concessions for public transportation, so every zone of the country is being operated by different railway companies. I also heard some stories that they want to turn it back to the old situation, but at least at the moment of recording, these trains are being operated by Go Ahead Nordic. These trains have been built in 1999. And in 2014 they have been refurbished in the Netherlands. At the side near the entrance doors you will find information about what seats can be found where, and there should also be a digital display that indicates the route information, train number, etc. But it was not on yet when I recorded this part of the video. Especially from the outside, these trains do look very similar at the Norwegian Railway Class 71, what is also being used for the Airport Express train between Oslo and the airport. However, the other trains, the Norwegian Rail Class 71, are way less convenient than these trains. Both these trains, but also the other trains that look very similar to these trains, do have a top speed of 210 km per hour and are tilting trains. Because this is a tilting train, these trains can go faster through curves, what basically means you can reduce the travel time. Just like most long distance trains in Norway, tickets do come including a seat reservation for these trains. If you're traveling with a rail pass like Eurail or Interrail, what I did for this journey, you're obligated to make a seat reservation. Therefore, it might be that some trains are fully booked and especially last minute, so please keep this in mind. Although for my trip early in April it was not that busy. Like I mentioned before, you also find different kinds of trains that are being pulled by a locomotive and that are no tilting trains. Those trains are also a bit slower. For now, let's take a closer look at the interior of my train today. These trains do come in one class only, and there's a mix of both airline style seats and bay seats, so seats facing each other. At the moment you enter the train, at the entrance doors it has been clearly marked what way to go for what seats, and at all doors there is a map with facilities of these trains. At the total front or back, depending what way you move, you find this family area, and there's this kind of play area. I really like this. Kind of playgrounds is something you see more often on long distance trains, especially in Norway. I mean, traveling is in general fun for kids by train, but this way it's even more fun. Near the family area there's also a disabled passenger area, and of course here you also find a bigger accessible toilet that can also be used as a diaper changing facility. Although at that moment I turned off the camera. The regular toilets are smaller, but they're pretty fine. I found them clean during my trip and I think this is most important. Even though these trains do come in one class only, you will find different zones. For example, dier-free. This basically means pet-free. So if you're traveling with a cat or a dog, I think more countries can introduce pet-free and pet-allowed areas in trains. This way it's more comfortable to travel by train for people who are allergic. Even though I don't see that many pets on trains in general, but wait, you get what I mean. The seats that do face each other, so with a table in between the bay seats, do have a bigger table between the seats you can fold out, and the airline style seats do have a footrest, a magazine rack, and also a table you can fold out. It even bumps into my belly. I just need to lose some weight. Reading lights are integrated within the luggage racks, and all windows do have a sunscreen. At the side you find a handle you can use to recline the seats, and I think these trains will pass the 12 miles of elbow test. Except the heating is integrated, so it's not that comfortable. For luggage you can use the area between the back ends of some seats and of course the overhead luggage racks throughout the train. Between the entrance doors there are also luggage racks, so this is at the moment you enter the train. Over here you also find line maps of this route, and the garbage cans are also located at these points. By the way, I almost forgot to mention, all seats do have power plugs located under the seats. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that I absolutely love dining cars, and this is the dining car. What I like most about these dining cars are these seats, and then especially these 4 seats over here with the big window. It almost feels like a panoramic train. There are not a lot of solo seats, but you find these solo seats. These are the strangest solo seats I ever saw in a train. However, one of these seats does have a bigger panoramic window. I was traveling in extra class today. This is, well, the seats are exactly the same as in the rest of the train. However, some cookies, bites and coffee and tea is included in my ticket. You can also upgrade this while you are on board of the train, and that will cost you about 100 krona. The extra amount I paid for an Interrail reservation in the Plus class is not worth it, unless you plan to drink more than 5 cups of coffee on board of this train, but well, I only drink 1. LED screens at the end of each compartment will host very basic route information, time, date, etc. For the next tiny bit of this video, I'll show you some views from the train on this route. The first section was not that stunning, but not long after that it got really stunning. already on board of the ferry that will bring me homebound towards the Netherlands on the MS Romantica of Holland Norway lines. I covered this vessel, this ferry connection by the way, when they just started, and so many things have been improved since then. Because it's only 1 year after I made that trip report, I'm not making a video about that now, but I really feel like I should make a new trip report about this as well, because so many things have been improved. Some things are changing for this company right now, so this is why I'm not doing it right now. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did so, give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more, just hit the subscribe button. See you on my next video. Like I mentioned before, I'll get back to the environmental impact. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can travel 694 times by train to have the same carbon footprint as traveling 1 time by plane on this route. However, the energy resources that are being needed for trains is 95.5% less. That's a different number. This number is easy to explain because the energy resources that are being used for trains are more sustainable than for planes. In this specific situation, they get direct power from the overhead wires, what is also green energy. Trains are in general the more sustainable way of transportation, but here are some extra plus sides. But even if you're traveling on a diesel powered train, in 99.99% of all situations the train is by far the most sustainable way of transportation. Maybe steam powered trains are not that sustainable, but that's a different story. By the way, the data in this graph is based on full capacity, so a plane that is fully loaded, so all seats are being occupied, and the same thing counts for the train in this graph. For the car, it's based on the European average at 1.6 passengers in the car, and also the European average car in terms of pollution. Of course, there are many differences when it comes to this. If you're interested in other trip reports, in the description of this video you can find a link to a map, and on this map you can find all trip reports. Of course, you can also find them on this channel. And if you don't want to miss anything, then hit the subscribe icon and also the notification button. Thank you for watching.